If you've got Shudder and are looking for a holiday-themed horror, Christmas Bloody Christmas just came out. But should you watch? It's Christmas Eve and Tori just wants to get drunk and party, but when a robotic Santa Claus at a nearby toy store goes haywire and begins a rampant killing spree through her small town, she's forced into a battle for survival. So the movie is just about as ridiculous as the synopsis says. There are these robots that were previously used by the military, but now have been reprogrammed and sold as toys. But from what we learn at the very opening of the movie is that some of the robots are going a bit wonky, triggering a global recall. Now, fun fact, at least for me, is that this movie was filmed in Placerville, California, which is just up the road a bit from where I grew up. And while in real life it's not quite a mountainous town, it does have a quaintness to it with some rustic history that we see within the settings. Now, the story follows a store owner and her employee/friend on Christmas Eve, as they start off with a bunch of drinks and then watch as the night turns into an absolute horror show. The dialogue in this is quick, but it's not necessarily witty. One thing that can be said is that it is almost non-stop. Like Riley Dandy, who plays the main character Tori, she cannot stop talking. She is incessant and she goes on almost without taking breaths. And while this is very impressive at how quickly the dialogue is delivered, it's also very audibly tiring. We're under a non-stop barrage of verbiage from both Tori and her employee friend Robbie. And while some of their banter is fun, especially as they wax on about music and movies, it's also just a lot, and I was longing for just a minute or two of downtime where no dialogue was occurring. Also, if you're not a fan of cussing, you're certainly not going to want to watch this. It's almost like they were going for a record of number of curse words used in a specific amount of time. And again, it was just a lot, but it was more annoying that the characters just wouldn't stop for a moment. So this does get into the action fairly quickly, where the robotic Santa wigs out and then starts slaying. The first two kills were a little disappointing to watch because it was really hard to discern what was going on. The point of view is from Santa, and it's obscured by his movements, which then takes away some of the thrills of the kill. But after these first two, Santa goes on a jaunt, and then the practical effects, they become extremely impressive. There are gnarly kills that were shown, and a ton of them are highly visible and gory. And this was the best part of the movie, because when the title has the word bloody in it, it better be bloody. And this, it delivers on the promise. The story itself is utterly basic and really highly unbelievable, but I didn't care. Once the violence started occurring, it went full bore into the slashings, and I was there for it. Now, there's one kill that I was actually a bit shocked that the story did, but I also appreciate that it didn't wimp out and stayed true to the premise of this robotic killing machine. And while each kill is brutal and quick, there's still a bunch of anticipation and dread that's able to be built up as this goes along. Now, I'm not saying that it's a tense ride all the way through. I mean, at the beginning, it's not tense at all. But once the mayhem starts and Santa's doing his best to get at the people, the urgency at which he attacks is stressful and exciting. And this is also helped along by a short runtime. This is only 86 minutes, so it's tight and it doesn't waste too much effort on character development or background. I mean, we learn tiny bits about the players from some of the conversations, but that's about it. For me, it was a little difficult at times to care about whether or not the characters survived, simply because I either didn't know anything about them or they were annoying. I mean, I still felt the rush of anticipation and dread, but I wasn't invested in the players themselves. Now, I've mentioned the level of noise from this movie, especially on the ever-present dialogue. But one bit did actually help to add to the chaotic frenzy of the story, and that was the driving metal soundtrack. It's loud and fast, and it helps to establish an intense level of emotion that helps to keep us on edge. Now, some of the character interactions and the setups are unbelievable, and can even work to pull you out of the movie. Like when Tori talks with some of the police, and one in particular, I mean, he's fully embracing a hick backwoods good old boy policeman officer who really loves to scream at people. Now, these interactions were grating, and even with the heightened emotions of the scene, they smacked as something totally unbelievable. But that still didn't remove the violence from the equation, so I didn't mind in the long run. This movie is really a mixed bag, though, for me. I love the energy and brutality that's delivered, but it was incredibly difficult to care about the characters. I was also getting a slight headache from the non-stop talking, and I found myself wishing that the characters would lose the ability to speak for just a bit so that my ears could take a break. Now, I appreciate the compressed time frame, cramming everything we see happen into just a few short hours, and this drives up the intensity and creates a sense of doomful chaos. At the end, I had fun with it. I mean, it's probably something I will go back to every now and then, especially when I want to watch some awesome practical effects and large amounts of bloody gore. There is a lot of sex, some nudity, and almost non-stop profanity and violence. I give Christmas Bloody Christmas 3 out of 5 couches. So what's a holiday horror that you can recommend? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for couching with me.